Alright, so y'all go ahead and do the factored and the math knowledge question for today. Pause the video, and then once everyone is finished, you can unpause the video and I'll go over the correct answers. So for the factoring, you should have x plus 4 times x plus 10 for your answer. For the math knowledge question, you're looking for numbers that are greater than 0 for x and y, and it says that this equation is true. So 3 to the 2x is the same thing as 27 to the 2y. So what we need to do is make this 27 so that it's 3 to the something. So 27 is 3 cubed. So instead of 27 to the 2y, we can say 3 cubed to the 2y. And then when you have a power raised to a power, you multiply these. So we're going to have 3 to the 2x equals 3 to the 6y. Because 3 times 2y is 6y. Now that the 3's are the same, they cancel, and the exponents are going to equal each other. 2x equals 6y. And so I can divide by 2 to give me x equals 3y. So D would be your answer. Okay, so we are looking at lesson 8 using formulas in geometry. We are also going to look at lesson 9 today. You're going to do 2 lessons today, but for homework you only have to do lesson 9 homework. So we're going to start off with lesson 8. So hopefully you'll understand how to use these different formulas in geometry. So a formula is just a mathematical relationship that's expressed with symbols. Perimeter is a formula. It's just the sum of the side lengths of a closed geometric figure. So you've probably dealt with perimeter in elementary school. It's not terribly difficult. You just have to add up all the side lengths of your figure. So we want to find the perimeter of this triangle. Well, our side lengths are 12, 6, and 12. So let's do black, not green on green. So the perimeter is going to be 12 plus 6 plus 12, which if you add those up would be 30. And then the units were centimeters. So that would be your answer for that one. For this rectangle, it tells us this side length is 5 and this one is 2.5. Opposite sides on a rectangle are congruent, so these are congruent and these two are congruent. So our perimeter is going to be 5 plus 5 plus 2.5 plus 2.5, which is going to be 15, and then the units is centimeters. So that would be your answer there. For the third one, a pentagon has 5 sides. There's a pentagon. It's not drawn so that each side length has a side length of 7. It's not regular, but if all of them have a side length of 7, basically your perimeter is 5 times 7, which is 35. And then the units would be inches. So that's how you can find perimeter. Hopefully that's review. Looking at area, that's the size of the region that's bounded by the figure. What size is enclosed would be the area. So your rectangular formula is length times width. Your triangular formula is 1/2 base times height. So hopefully you have seen those before. If not, you do need to learn them. So we want to find the area of this triangle. So we're just going to use the area formula, which is 1/2 base times height. So on our triangle, The base is 3 and the height is 8. So 3 times 8 is 24, and then half of 24 is 12. And then on unit, on area, the units are always squared. So our units are going to be feet squared. So the area for this triangle would be 12 feet squared. Now for this one, it wants us to find the height of the figure. So it told us the area was 27, and it told us the base was 9. But we don't know what the height is here. So we're going to start with our area formula. And we're going to plug in that area is 27, and that equals 1/2. The base is 9, and we don't know the height. So if I multiply by 2 on both sides to get rid of the 1/2, 2 times 27 is 54, and so that equals 9h. And then if I divide by 9, my height would be 6. And the units on that one would be meters, because it's just your height. Okay? Now we're going to look at the Pythagorean theorem. So you may have seen the Pythagorean theorem before. A squared plus B squared equals C squared, where A and B are your legs and C is your hypotenuse. You can only use the Pythagorean theorem on right triangles. So A squared plus B squared equals C squared. You do need to learn that. You'll use it a lot in math. So we want to find the length of the hypotenuse. So that is our C. So we're going to start with A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Now A and B can be interchanged. They're just the legs. It doesn't matter which one is A and which one is B. So you can say 9 squared plus 40 squared equals C squared. So 9 squared is 81. 40 squared would be 1600. And then equals C squared. So 81 plus 1600 is 1681. And then to find C, you're going to take the square root of both sides of your equation. And then, so the square root of 1681 is 41. And then the units are centimeters. So that's the length of your hypotenuse. For this bottom one, it wants us to find the area of the triangle. So to do that, we have to figure out what our base length is first. So we're going to have to use Pythagorean theorem. So A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So A, we can say is 9. So 9 squared. And then we don't know B. And then our C is our hypotenuse, which is 15. So 9 squared is 81 plus B squared equals 15 squared is 225. So 225 minus 81 should be 144. And then to solve for B, you take the square root. And the square root of 144 is 12. So that means that this is 12. So now we can use our area formula to find the area of the triangle. So 1/2, the base is 12, and the height is 9. So if you multiply 9 times 12, you get 108, and if you take half of that, you get 54. You could also do 1/2 times 12, which is 6, times 9, which is 54. Either one of those would be fine with me. And so 54 would be, feet squared would be your area. Okay? So now we're going to look at an example with Celsius and Kelvin, Celsius and Fahrenheit conversions. So your formula, you're going to want to write this down. C equals 5/9 F minus 32. That's how you're going to convert from Celsius to Fahrenheit. So C is Celsius, F is for Fahrenheit. So we're going to start with our formula. C equals 5 ninths times F minus 32. And then it tells us the 23 is our Fahrenheit, and we need to find Celsius. So Celsius equals 5 over 9. Fahrenheit is 23 minus 32. So 23 minus 32 is negative 9. So 5 over 9 times negative 9. And if you multiply, these 9's will cancel. And so we have 5 times negative 1, which is negative 5 degrees. And it's Celsius degrees. And so that would be your answer. So that's how you can use that formula. You can also use it to go from Celsius to Fahrenheit. So this time it tells us our C is 40. So 40 equals 5 over 9 F minus 32. So on this one, I'm going to multiply by 9 over 5 on both sides so that my fraction will cancel. And so if you multiply, before we multiply, we can divide the 5 by 5 to make 1, and 40 by 5 to make 8. And so then we just have 9 times 8, which is 72. And then that equals F minus 32. And so if you add 72 plus 32, you're going to get 104 degrees Fahrenheit. So that would be your answer for that one. So that's how you can use that formula to convert from one to the other. So let's see if you can do these two by yourself, and then I'll go over them. So we want to find the perimeter of a triangle, and the sides are all congruent, and they all equal 6.5. So a triangle has 3 sides, and each of them is 6.5. So 3 times 6.5 is going to give you 19.5, and the units are meters. Then for the perimeter of the rectangle, we're going to have 145 plus 123 plus another 145 plus 123. And so if you add those all up, you should get 536 centimeters. So that would be your answer there. For these two, again, y'all try them, and then I'll go over them after y'all have tried them. So for the perimeter of a 6-sided figure, and all of the side lengths are 16, you're just going to do 6 times 16, which is 96, and the units on that perimeter is inches. For the area of the rectangle, you're going to do length times width. So our length and our width are 14.5 and 21.2. So if you multiply those two together, you're going to get 307.4, and the units will be feet squared. Okay. Let's look at these. See if you can try them by yourself, and then I'll go over them. So we have a rectangle. The area equals 12, and one of the side lengths is 6. So the area, length times width. The area is 12, and it says the length is 6. So what would the width be? Well, if you divide by 6, 12 divided by 6 would be 2. So our width would be 2 centimeters. For this next one, we want to use Pythagorean theorem. So we would say 8 squared plus b squared equals 10 squared. So a squared is 64 plus b squared equals 100. If you subtract, b squared will equal 36. And then you take the square root, and b equals 6. And our units are meters. So 6 meters would be your answer. Okay, on the next one, we want to find the area of a triangle. It doesn't give us a triangle, so you may want to draw it out. You don't have to if you can do it without drawing it. Okay, so they tell us the hypotenuse is 17, one of the sides is 15. So using Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus 15 squared equals 17 squared. So a squared plus 225 equals 289. And if you subtract, you get a squared equals 64. And then if you take the square root of both sides, a is going to equal 8. And then it said to find the area. So the area is 1/2 base times height. So our base is 15 and our height is 8. So 15 times 8 is 120 and half of 120 is 60. So 60, and then millimeters is mm and squared because it's area. Okay, so now we're going to look at 2 more practice problems. I'll write the formula up here. If you didn't write it down earlier, you need to write it down because you're going to need that formula to convert these. So y'all try these and then pause the video and I'll go over them. Alright, so it says if it's 0 degrees Fahrenheit, what is it in Celsius? So our F is 0. So 5/9 times -32. And it says round to the nearest tenth. So I get -17.8 degrees Celsius. You just plug it into your formula and simplify. Okay, looking at this next one, Celsius is 100. And then we're solving for F. So I'm going to multiply by my fraction of 9/5. And so divide by 5, that would be a 1. Divide that by 5, that would be 20. 90 times 20 is 180. And then if you add 32, you're going to get 212 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's what you should get for those practice problems. Hopefully you were able to get most of those correct. We're going to look at our challenge question for today. Explain how you can use the formula for area of a rectangle to find the area of a square. So y'all pause the video and think about that one real quick, and then we can go over it. So the area for a rectangle is just area equals base times height. And for a square, base and the height are equal. So area for a square can either be base squared or height squared. So either one of those would be fine. Okay, so not a terribly difficult challenge question. You probably are familiar with how to find the area of a square. Alright, so now we're going to look at lesson 9. We're going to be finding length using the distance formula. So hopefully you'll know how to find the distance. You'll know how to find the distance between 2 points using the distance formula. So, alright, so we're going to find the distance between these 2 points on our number line. All you're going to do, basically, you can either count over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or you can do the absolute value and subtract them. So we would do -4 minus 2. So -4 minus 2 is -6, and the absolute value of that is 6. So you can count if you want, or you can just subtract the two values and take the absolute value. Okay, now if you have it in a coordinate plane, the distance between 2 points x1, y1, and x2, y2 is given by this formula. You can switch them and do x1 minus x2 squared and y1 minus y2 squared, if you would rather. Or you can do this one and this one, or this one and this one. So there are actually 4 different ways you could write the formula. But basically you're going to take your x's and subtract, square, take your y's, subtract, square, add those 2 together, and then take the square root. So we're going to practice this. Find the distance between the 2 points. So this point is 3, 3, and this point is 6, 7. So our distance formula is x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. So my x2 I'll say is 6, my other x is 3, so 6 minus 3 squared. My y2 is 7, and my other y value is 3 squared. So 6 minus 3 is 3, and 7 minus 3 is 4. So 3 squared would be 9, and 4 squared would be 16. And then 9 plus 16 is 25, and the square root of 25 is 5. So that would be the distance between the 2 points. Okay, let's look at another example. We want to find the distance between the 2 points. Is the distance formula actually necessary on this problem? No, because we can just count over because it's a horizontal, or if it had been a vertical line, we could do the same thing. So we can count, or we could just say this is -3 and this is 4, and the absolute value of -3 minus 4 is 7. So you could do it either way, but I'm going to show you, just in case you didn't notice, for your distance formula. So this point is -3, 2, and this point is 4, 2. So when you plug it in, your x values, you're going to have 4 minus a -3, so that's 4 plus 3. And then you're going to have 2 minus 2. So 4 plus 3 is 7. 2 minus 2 is 0. So that's 49 plus 0, which we don't have to write, and the square root of that is just 7. So if you want to use the distance formula, you can, but if you don't, you'll still get the same answer just by using the formula we use on a number line. Alright, so let's look at this one. We have a map, and it tells us that the distance is using the dots for each building. So what is the distance from Sandra's house to the school? So Sandra's house to the school. So we're just going to use our distance formula. So our x values are 7 and 2, so 7 minus 2 squared, and our y values are 8 and 5, so 8 minus 5 squared. 7 minus 2 is 5, and 8 minus 5 is 3. So 5 squared is 25. And 3 squared is 9. And then 25 plus 9 is 34. We don't know the square root of that, so we have to take the square root of it. So that gives me 5.83, and it keeps going 0, 9, 5, 1. And then it says each unit represents 100 meters. So to get the actual distance between them, we need to multiply this by 100. So if you multiply by 100, you're basically just going to move your decimal place over 2 places. So that's going to become 583, and it says round to the nearest hundredth. So this 0, 9, this 5 rounds that 9 up, So it's going to be 10, and then meters. So that would be the distance between her house and the school. Now for the distance between Sandra's house and the library. So here's Sandra's house, and here's the library. So if you look, that's a vertical line. So we don't actually need to do the distance formula. We can just count. So the distance between 7-3 and 7-5, well, we're going from 3 to 8. That's going to be a total of 5. So from 7-3 to 7-8 is a difference of 5. And again, you have to multiply by 100, so that gives you 500 meters. So that would be your answer for that one. Okay, so let's try some practice problems, see if y'all can work through these, and then I'll go over them. So for the first one, we're going to do -7 minus 5, and the absolute value of that would be 12. So that would be your answer. For the distance between S and T, we're going to use our distance formula. So this point is -5, -3, and this point is -2, -6. So 1x is -5, -x would become a +2. The other y is -3, and then -6 would become a +6. So -5 plus 2 is -3, and then squared. -3 plus 6 is 3 squared. So anytime you have a negative number and then you square it, it's going to become positive. So -3 squared is 9, and then 3 squared is also 9. And then 9 plus 9 is 18, and so it says round to the nearest hundredth. So the square root of 18 gives me 4.24. So that would be your answer for that one. Okay. Now we're going to look at this one. We want to find the distance between these 2 points. So y'all see if you can do this one by yourself, and then I will go over it. So we're going to use our distance formula. So x minus x plus y minus y. That negative minus is going to turn into a plus. So 2 minus 2 is 0, squared is 0, and then 3 plus 4 is 7, squared is 49. So square root of 49 is 7. Did we have to use the distance formula? No, because our x values are the same. So you could have just done absolute value of -4 minus 3, which is 7. So either way, you'll get the same answer. Okay, so let's try one more practice problem and see if you can get it by yourself. The peak of a mountain is located at 120, and they start at 0, 120. How far are they going to walk to get to the peak? And each unit represents 10 meters. So the first thing we're going to do is use the distance formula to find the distance between those two. So we're going to do 120 minus 0 squared, and then 0 minus 125 squared. So 120 squared is 14,400, and 125 squared is 15,625. And then you're going to add those two numbers together, and you should get 30,025, and then you take the square root of that number, and that gives you 173.277. And so then it told us each unit was 10, so we have to multiply this by 10. So that's just going to move your decimal place to there. And it says round our answer to the nearest tenth. So 1732.8. And then the units are meters. So that would be your answer. Okay. Okay, so now let's look at the challenge question. The coordinates of A are that, and the coordinates of B are that. And it tells us the length of AB is 10. We want to find the value for R and write the ordered pairs for A and B, and then explain your answer. So y'all try this one, and then once y'all think you have the answer or you have given up because you don't know what you're doing, y'all unpause it and I'll go over it for you. So you're going to use your distance formula here. So the distance they told us was 10. So our x value is r minus 5, and then minus r minus 1. Because we're subtracting this, we have to distribute the negative to the r and to the 1. And then our y value is negative 2r minus 2r. So on the first one, if we combine, we're actually just going to have negative 6 squared and then negative 4r squared. So negative 6 squared is 36, and negative 4r squared, so negative 4 squared is 16, and r squared is r squared. From there, we're going to square both sides so that we can get rid of the square root. So 10 squared is 100. And the square root of all of this squared is just going to be what's in the radical. So 36 plus 16r squared. And then you're going to do 100 minus 36, which is 64. So 64 is going to equal 16r squared. And then if you divide by 16, you get that r squared is 4. And then to solve for r, you take the square root. Now, the value for r, it could be positive or negative 2. So that's our value for r, because negative 2 squared is 4, as well as positive 2 squared is 4. Then we're going to write the ordered pairs for A and B. So you're just going to plug in positive 2 and negative 2 into these up here. So A could be, if we plug in 2, we would get negative 3, negative 4. And for B, we would get 3, 4. And if we plug in negative 2, we would get negative 7, 4. And B would be negative 1, negative 4. So those would be your possible options. Okay, so again, your homework is only lesson 9, 1 through 30. So make sure that you do that tonight so we can go over any questions you have tomorrow.